Okay, this is your annotation guide for Never Let Me Go. We've got, of course, themes, symbols, motifs, and literary devices. So using all of these, you should be able to annotate your text very clearly. It's a wonderful book, and we're, of course, comparing it to Gattaca, so keep that in mind, that the themes are the only part that we will directly translate across to compare directly, whereas the symbols, the motifs, and the literary devices will be, of course, compared to filmic devices, symbols, and motifs within the film. So our 4 themes are probably the most important because, as I said, they're going to go across both texts, so keep that in mind. That's probably why they're a little bit broader. So we've got discrimination. In Never Let Me Go, discrimination is mostly about the carers or the teachers especially. So the teachers kind of are quite afraid, aware of, and of course the broader society discriminates against the students as well, without giving too much away, of course. Then we've got humanity. So this is basically when there are signs of kindness between the teachers and the students, and the students and the students, and anytime there's sort of love or genuine kind of connection or coming together, that's just humanity for us. We've got fate and free will. Fate's probably the wrong word for it, but it gives us a nice broad category. So if you think of fate as kind of the preordained, the destined way that these people are meant to live their lives, kind of both societies, Gattaca and Never Let Me Go, sort of make tracks for people to live on. And so you're born, you kind of go through the track in order from place to place until your eventual death. Free will, of course, is when the people find a way to work around that and they sort of, branch off, they form their own path, their own track, and they show small signs of sort of diversion. They don't follow the rules, or they do their own thing, or they have their own personality traits that aren't common within the settings that they're in. And then the easiest one is, of course, just genetic manipulation. So this is just that. They talk about ways that genes are being passed on, sort of looked after, kept safe, and kind of how one segment of society is differentiated and kept separate from the other for that purpose. So those ones are probably the easiest to pick up. Just to give you an idea, the next video will give you a lot more detail on the kind of the ways that you're finding these themes and give you some examples. In terms of motifs, we've got a whole bunch of things that are pretty straightforward. Obviously the cassette, we've got kind of the idea of copies, everyone having their own duplicate, their own other person. We've got the song Never Let Me Go that is on the cassette, so there's the cassette itself that kind of has significance to the story. And then there's the song and the way that becomes a key motif that reoccurs towards the middle and towards the end of the story. We've got Norfolk, Hailsham, all these places are motifs as well as things and places and objects. So the full list is there. And again, video 2 if any of these don't necessarily straight away jump out and make sense to you from your reading of the book. Then we've got some symbols. We've got magazines. We've got the open plan office. We've got Tommy's animals, Tommy's drawings. Some of these sort of fit within the motifs as well, but they're important to annotate, to keep in mind, because the authors sort of put them very obviously and very crucially into the story. And so your job is always, as well as annotating where these are, is keeping in mind what they represent and what they mean. We've got literary devices. The easy one to keep in mind is euphemism, dysphemism, and neologism. So euphemism is sort of a vague word to describe something that's, challenging or bad. And then dysphemism is a very strong way of doing the same, and neologism just means new word. So in Gattaca, lots of new words are made up or invented for the purpose, whereas in Never Let Me Go, it's mostly quite vague and euphemistic, like, we're going to go make a donation and we're going to, we're carers, all these sort of disconnected verbs and nouns that give us a real sense of distance to what's really happening. We've got metaphors, dramatic irony, being when you as the reader knows more about the people, more about what's happening than the people in the text. And then we've got intertextual references, there's not too many of those, and some irony as well. So this should give you a broad overview of what you're looking for as you read and reread and annotate the book. And video 2 will give you quite specific examples of where you're looking and how you're going to go about it. Cheers.